Let's welcome in maybe one of the greatest beat reporters in all of the NFL. She's a 4-time Tennessee Sports Writer of the Year. It is Teresa Walker. How you doing, Teresa?
Oh, I'm doing good. I'm broadcasting from the literal parking lot of the Titans practice facility because we get availability here in a few minutes. And let's just say that, they doubled the size of their building, but the press workroom is always loud. So it's just easier to join you guys from the quiet comfort of my car.
Well, we appreciate that very much. Teresa, one of the things I want to talk about with you, and we'll start there, is it's been a mixed bag for the Titans, like it has for many of the teams, including the Browns. But the one thing that I was looking at a lot of numbers this week, and the one thing that really jumped out to me was the number of 3-and-outs this team has had, particularly when you consider that they were able to beat a pretty good offensive team last week. I think they're 26th or 27th in the NFL in 3-and-outs. How do you explain that when you've got a guy like Derrick Henry who's known for moving sticks?
Too many penalties, and there's been too many penalties on first and second downs, putting them into bad passing situations where the defense can pin their ears back. Literally, the fastest sack in the first 2 weeks of the NFL happened on 4th and 4 in the first quarter on Sunday. It took Kenneth Murray of the Chargers 2.31 seconds to get through the left side of the line untouched to take Ryan Tannehill down on a 4th down. That said, this is a new offensive line. It's a new offensive coordinator. Tim Kelly, by the way, who was Deshaun Watson's coordinator in Houston in 2019. So the Titans front office and the coaching staff, very familiar with Deshaun Watson. But this offense seemed to start clicking. They've got 4 new starters on the offensive line. And one of those guys, Peter Skoronski, their first-round pick out of Northwestern. So they had a new guy in there in the first quarter on Sunday. He gave up 2 quick sacks. So they yanked him, put in Dylan Radins, and they still gave up 5 sacks on Sunday. But it seemed like they started gelling right before the end of the first half. They drove down, got a field goal from Nick Folk, and they came back, guys, from an 11-point deficit. And Ryan Tannehill was at his best in the fourth quarter and overtime. He completed all 7 passes. I think it was 94 yards. And really, it seemed like this offense showed signs of coming together at that point. Now, can they carry it over? Can they keep protecting Tannehill? That's a big question, especially against this Browns front. So if they can, the penalties have been their biggest issue, putting them into those situations when you're facing a 1st and 20, 2nd and 15, guys, any defense can go after the quarterback then.
Teresa, I'm curious. Ryan Tannehill's been there a while. I personally, I just don't think he's any good. I don't think the Titans can ultimately win at the highest level, right? They failed in the playoffs. They're well coached. Derrick Henry's great, but he's getting old. If I'm a Titans fan, I feel like I'm spinning my wheels here. They've been a solid team, but I feel like they're kind of stuck in the middle as long as they have Tannehill. Is that fair, unfair? Do the fans feel that way?
A lot of fans feel that way, but I will say this. When Derrick Henry broke his right foot on Halloween of 2021, that team with Ryan Tannehill went 12-5 and was the number 1 seed in the AFC. And unfortunately, Ryan Tannehill had 3 interceptions in the game against the Bengals, one coming with 20 seconds left, which is why a lot of Titan fans do see him as a scapegoat, and they just want, they see Malik Willis, Will Levis sitting on the bench, waiting in the wings, and trust me, a lot of chatter this offseason, especially in the opener. He had the worst career passer rating of his entire career. And just this 3rd game, and first since his rookie season, where he had 3 picks and no touchdowns, and people were ready to ride him out of town on a rail. Guess what happens, though? On Sunday, he came back with his highest career passer rating. It was like, completion percentage, 83.3%. He had 123 passing percentage or quarterback rating. I mean, 246 yards. He ran for a touchdown. He threw for 1. He posted the 27th game-winning drive of his career. And guys, 14 of those have been since 2019 when he came to the Titans. That's 3rd in the NFL in that span, tied with some guy named Tom Brady who just retired. So, now that's the thing. They've had a great team around him, But each of the last 2 years, they have led the league in most players used because of injuries. And one of those guys was Ryan Tannehill. He hurt his ankle against the Chargers last December. He played with the bum wheel much of last year. He's healthy. He's been here this whole offseason. And if you want to see why the Titans are starting him and not looking to Levis or Willis yet, well, look at the 70-yard pass that he dropped into Treylon Burks' hands on Sunday. And then he had a 49-yarder into the fourth quarter. The receiver was just smothered by the defender. And Tannehill put that ball where only he could catch it. So, and now with the ankle healed up, he ran for a 12-yard touchdown on a triple option look. It just, he had to shake some rust off, okay? He played one series in one preseason game, handed the ball off 3 times. And, this is a guy that the Titans, they believe in right now. Now, granted, he's 35 and in the last year of his contract, but they're rolling the dice with him this season.
Teresa, I wanted to follow up because you mentioned Treylon Burks there. Yesterday we had a debate, and I was by myself on this. Everybody else on the panel behind the scenes made it so we were talking about Treylon Burks versus George Pickens of the Steelers. Obviously, Burks was drafted higher than Pickens, and Pickens has been more productive to this point in their careers. But I was making the point that everybody else here felt like, it's obvious that Pickens is better. My argument was, well, the Steelers throw the ball a lot more than the Titans do. And Burks is the number 1 receiver on Tennessee. Tennessee don't have any other receivers, so the top defender is going to guard him for the last 2 years, whereas Pickens, outside of last week, has had Deontay Johnson and even Pat Freiermuth to take the pressure off him a little bit. How good do you think Treylon Burks is, and can he become the receiver they envisioned him being when they drafted him in the first round?
Watching Treylon Burks this offseason, I think yes. Now, don't forget, they're the team that managed to land DeAndre Hopkins, and all he did, he didn't practice last week because of a bum ankle, rolled it at the end of the Saints loss, but he doesn't practice all week. He is targeted 5 times, catches 4, including a 14-yarder that set up the game-winning field goal in overtime. So DeAndre Hopkins is going to still drag some attention. They also have a tight end named Chigga. I'm expecting Okonkwo and Burks to truly break out this season because they've been around just this entire offseason working with Tannehill, working on the chemistry and timing and the communication. I am expecting a big year from Treylon Burks this year. Last year he was limited by injuries. Admittedly, he deals with asthma, and when he came into Nashville for the offseason program, he was not ready. He was out of shape, and he admitted it. And then he got hurt in the season, so he had 1 touchdown reception all of last season. Guys, he caught it and was knocked out on the play in Philadelphia, and so he dealt with injuries last year. I am expecting a breakout season for Burks this year.
Teresa, defensively, they really got after Justin Herbert last week, and the Browns have not handled pressure well. Deshaun Watson's been under duress in both of these games, really, and even going back to last year. How have the Titans cranked up the pressure, especially last week against Herbert?
Well, it helps that they've got a 2-time Pro Bowl defensive lineman on the interior in Jeffrey Simmons. Guys, he absolutely could be a candidate for Defensive Player of the Year this year, okay? He played half of last season on a bum ankle that they had to shoot up before every game and still finished the year as a Pro Bowler. They have Danico Autry in the final year of his deal. He has had 19 and a half sacks since the Titans signed him a couple years ago. They added Arden Key on the outside. Harold Landry is back after missing last year. He was a Pro Bowler with 12 sacks in 2021. So they've got enough guys. And then Tier Tart is a guy undrafted who is just quietly getting after guys and getting double teamed because the opposing coaches notice him and give him attention. So they can pressure with everybody on that offensive line. And now they've got some interior linebackers. Azeez Al-Shaair is a linebacker that they signed in free agency from the 49ers. Couldn't get on the field much in San Francisco because, well, he was behind Fred Warner. And so now he's here. They have got a front 7 that can get after the quarterback. And even if they're not getting him on the ground, and they took Herbert down 3 times, they can pressure him. And that's the thing. The Chargers went 3 and out in overtime after winning the coin toss because they were pressuring Herbert. They brought the house on him, and he could not find his receivers with the pressure that they were bringing. So they will get after Deshaun Watson. And Shane Bowen, he used to coach in Houston. He's very familiar with how dangerous Watson can be when he starts running around. Look for them to try to handle him and keep him under control.
Teresa, I think we had you on when Jim Schwartz first landed here in Cleveland. I don't know if you've been able to watch any of the Browns games. I'm sure you've seen some of the numbers, though. Are you surprised at all with the way he's been able to turn this defense around so quickly?
Not at all. I mean, that is the hallmarks of a Jim Schwartz defense. Getting after the quarterback and being very stingy against the run. Those, not surprised at all that, in fact, when they're tied, the Titans and the Browns right now are tied for rushing defense. Now, the Titans have a few more sacks than the Browns, but the Browns have got some serious pressures because that's a hallmark of a Jim Schwartz defense. It's not always about the sack numbers. It's about how much you're pressuring that quarterback, and they are flat getting after it. And that's Jim Schwartz in a nutshell.
When you look at the matchup, one of the things that jumps out is the fact that the Titans' defensive secondary has been not good. I think they're, Mike, did we say yesterday 28th?
28th in opponent pass yards per game.
Yeah, opponent passing yards. Is there anything that sometimes numbers need context? Any injuries? Have they been that bad? What have you seen in the back end of that defense?
Well, they were that bad last year. Guys, they were last in the NFL against the pass last year and first against the run. So they start out by making teams one-dimensional. Now, the problem, they did not have safety Imani Hooker last week because he was in the concussion protocol. He's working through that. Practice yesterday. Starting safety, cornerback Christian Fulton, who has battled a hamstring. Mike Vrabel called out some repeat offenders when the season ended last year. Christian Fulton's been one of them. He worked this offseason with a different trainer, trying to get better with that, and misses the second game with a hamstring issue. So he practiced yesterday, so they've got a chance of getting both of those guys back. They went out and got Sean Murphy-Bunting to add to the secondary, but Roger McCreary is in his second year out of Auburn. He is a guy, second-round pick last year, quietly becoming one of the best cornerbacks in the NFL against the pass. And, if you're targeting him, you're not going to have much success. So, but they're willing to give up some passing yards. The key is when they get in the red zone, they made the Chargers settle for field goals on 3 of their 5 trips into the red zone last week. That's where they bend but don't break. That's kind of their motto.
Yeah. Teresa, both teams 1-1. Obviously a big game. You want to get over 500 here. Who do you think is going to win this week?
Guys, Mike Vrabel is an Ohio native, played at Ohio State. This game means a lot to him. And it feels like this offense is finding its footing here in Tennessee with all the changes this offseason. I think the Titans are going to, and they're 2-0 against the spread. So the Browns are definitely the favorite in this game. I think the Titans are going to find a way to pull this out.
Wow.
Thanks, Teresa.
All right, Teresa, thank you very much. Excellent information. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you, guys.